Hello and welcome back to Russ's Movie Corner. My name is Russ, and as you can see, I am sitting in front of my movie corner. I have my Star Wars The Last Jedi t-shirt, my Star Wars The Last Jedi Blu-ray right here, and judging by the frame around me, we are back taking on Brandon and Left Foot Media's video of 6 things that fans of The Last Jedi are getting wrong. Now, in the last episode, again, this was the second video that I ever did on my channel, and I didn't know that I could respond to the video. I didn't know that I could do some of those different things. So I had printed off kind of a transcript. I had written out some notes, and I was sitting there kind of reading from the notes and kind of, discussing things and talking about things. And at the time that I did the video, we didn't have The Rise of Skywalker, which was episode 9, so we didn't have all the answers there. I did have the dictionaries, the visual dictionaries for The Force Awakens and for The Last Jedi, but there were some things that I wanted to articulate that I didn't quite get to. So again, last time on the video here, we chatted, we kind of finished up the 4th fallacy and kind of started on the 5th fallacy, and the 5th fallacy, for those of you that may be just joining us, you probably want to check out some of the previous videos before you get too deep in this one, but the 5th fallacy that he brings up is this notion of that there was nothing new, or that it was going in a new direction, and he doesn't see a new direction because all he sees is like Star Wars tropes on display and various things like that. And I have to say that as a Star Wars fan, okay, I have been playing the video games for a long time. I have the Knights of the Old Republic series here. I have, here's Star Wars Bounty Hunter, Star Wars The Clone Wars, Episode 3 and The Force Unleashed, and one oft-repeated one that I pull out a lot, Star Wars Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy. I even have the original 2 Battlefronts on the original Xbox. My biggest thing with him saying, oh, all these tropes, they're just rehashes of the same old, same old. Well, I'm sorry to say this, Brandon, but it seems to me like you have never actually read a single Star Wars novel from the Legends EU, played a single Star Wars game from the Legends EU, because that's pretty much all they ever did. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that every single game and every single novel was a rehash, but for instance, look at the Thrawn trilogy. The Thrawn trilogy had every single thing had 3 planets in it, okay? You had a Dark Jedi who mimicked the Emperor / Darth Vader. You had an Imperial Admiral who was gallivanting around the galaxy, just having fun at the Rebels' expense. You had, Lando was part of some crazy thing going on over, some crazy scheme going on over here, and he got robbed, and he ends up rejoining the Rebels, and ends up going out and doing stuff. Gee, sounds familiar, doesn't it? I mean, wasn't it Lando was, part of Cloud City, and then towards the end of that, he ends up joining the rebellion, and ends up, helping them defeat the Empire? I mean, isn't that exactly what happened before? Oh, yeah, that's right, they did. And then at the very end, like I said before, I mean, it's like Luke didn't even do anything in the final battle in The Last Command. It was all Mara Jade. Because, Luke walks in and he starts feeling this, pressure from the Force, and he can't suddenly use the Force for some reason or another. We don't really know. And then all of a sudden, he's just oh, and then here comes this, clone. And so, Mara Jade picks up her lightsaber because Leia's useless. She never got any Force training. And Han's useless because, well, he's not a Force user. And Lando's useless because he's not a Force user. Like, pretty much everybody's useless except for Mara Jade. And Mara Jade just goes out and kicks Luke's clone's ass. And we don't even know why Luke's, clone was doing that. And we don't know, they don't really explain why the clone had the things going on. We don't really know why all this stuff. And the only thing that they brought into that, in the lore, okay, the only thing that they brought into that was in the novelization for episode 2. Okay, if you read the novelization, when Obi-Wan gets to Kamino, okay, the guy who runs the stuff, Lama Su, the Prime Minister of Kamino, when he comes in, he literally sits down and he says something to the effect of like, originally we were going to use a Jedi template for clones, but Sifo Dyas sort of persuaded us not to. And Obi-Wan is like, yeah, we've heard of clones of Jedi being made before, and it has a detrimental effect on the Force. So, glad that they decided not to use clones of Jedi. Even though clones of Jedi, like in his head, Obi-Wan's thinking clones of Jedi would have been, like, insanity. Running around the galaxy, like, blasting away droids, and, like, using the Force to, like, leap around and do all this crazy stuff. It would have been insane. Like, he was like, wow, that would have been totally insane. But he basically mentions that it would have a detrimental effect on the Force, not only of the Force user that was the template for the clones, but it would also have a detrimental effect on the Jedi around the clones. Which was something that they didn't really explore in The Last Command, but I think that was because Timothy Zahn had just kind of thought of it. Like, oh, what if we cloned Luke Skywalker? Because, like, his hand got chopped off in Empire Strikes Back, right? Well, let's just go get his hand, and we'll have him cloned. Her. Okay. Instead, his lightsaber got found by Maz Kanata, and she's had it for 30 years. Anakin's lightsaber. But it's, it was Luke's lightsaber in the original trilogy. So, anyway, let's jump back into this, and, as I've said before, I have, some of my lore and some of my different things here, and we're going to jump back in, we're going to talk about this stuff, because, again, the reason why I do this, okay, is I'm not personally attacking him. What I'm doing is I'm poking the holes in his argument, using lore of Star Wars, okay? And if you ever want to discuss something, be it you love the sequels, you hate the sequels, you love the prequels, you hate the prequels, you love the originals, you hate the originals, it doesn't matter. If you're gonna have an argument, you gotta argue from lore. And if you're not gonna argue from lore, then shut the fuck up, okay? Seriously. If you're not gonna argue from lore, then don't even bother opening your mouth. You can say your opinion. You can say, I just don't like the sequels. And if somebody asks, well, why don't you like them? Then just say, I just don't like them. They're just not my movies. That's fine. Okay? Enjoy your Legends EU timeline. Enjoy your Legends EU books and comics and everything else. And shut the fuck up and let the rest of us enjoy the movies. Okay? But what you don't get to do is try to dictate to us, the actual fans of these movies, and say, wow, you guys suck because you like these movies. No. If you're going to come out and you're going to open your damn mouth, then the biggest thing, the best thing that you can do is start arguing from a lore perspective. Why is it bad from the lore perspective? And so far, all I've heard is, okay, well, it wasn't what I would have done, okay, because this is what I would have done, and this is what my brother said that he would have done, and, like, it wasn't the Luke Skywalker. He Frank Spencered the whole thing in The Last Jedi, and, he never did that in the original trilogy, which he totally did. All the fucking time, okay? He Frank Spencered shit all the fucking time, okay? So, that's the only two things that I've heard so far from Brandon's mouth saying, oh, gee, guess what? We don't think that this is just not good storytelling. Well, you haven't given us any lore related story reasons as to why it's bad. And when we get to fallacy number 6, I'm gonna fucking destroy this bitch, okay? Because I am absolutely going to hack this guy's argument to pieces because he has the most hypocritical bullshit answer you've ever heard in your life when we get to fallacy 6. So let's get back into this and let's keep on going.
They are shuffling characters around and they are, getting rid of some of the old ones and bringing in some new ones. And no one's got a problem with that, by the way. We will understand that they had to do that. The actors are getting old. You can't just be rehashing the same story over and over and over again. But this film is effectively still Star Wars. It's just a badly executed version of Star Wars, and that's not the same thing as a movie that is going in some bold new direction.
Okay, I have never heard anyone say before that they were going in a bold new direction. Especially after episode 7. Not many people said, oh, this is a bold new direction. One of the bold new directions was having Luke refusing to train Rey. That was a bold new direction, because in all of the older media that we have, specifically games like, Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, and those kind of games, Luke was always up for training people, right? And like in the Jedi Academy trilogy, he goes and he trains Kip Duran, and Kip turns to the dark side and force blasts Luke's soul right out of his body for some reason, which we've never understood why or how that ever happened. And it took one Jedi initiate to bring his soul back to his body when no one else could hear it for some reason, which doesn't make any sense. Because you'd think that if his force essence got blasted out of his body, that he would just be able to be a force ghost and appear to people, appear to Leia and go, hey, Leia, I got force blasted out of my body. It was Kip Duran's fault. You need to come to Yavin and send Han after Kip really quick. But, they never really explained why all that happened, okay? And a lot of people were like, oh, it's a bold new direction. I'm like, no, it's really not. Because it's really just, it's basically just Luke training Jedi with not really even knowing how to train Jedi, okay? And the funny thing is that if you look at it, the new trilogy is an amalgamation of the Jedi Academy trilogy and the Dark Empire comic series and, basically the misadventures of Han and Leia's children, okay? Because that's basically what it is. It's Kylo Ren falls to the, Ben falls to the dark side because of Luke Skywalker, and Luke Skywalker feels responsible, so what does he do? He refuses to train anyone. He leaves completely. He's like, I'm out. I'm gone. I'm leaving. I'm never coming back. Okay? And he doesn't tell anybody where he's going. He just leaves. Okay? And when Rey finally finds him, she's handing the lightsaber to him like, I want you to train me because I need to find out what the fuck is going on here. And he just looks at it and is like, yeet. Literally. And it was so funny because when he threw that lightsaber, there was such a chuckle in the theater. About the 3 times that I saw it in the theater, it elicited a chuckle from every single audience when he went and threw it backwards. Because everybody was expecting him to sort of look at it and go, welcome, apprentice. I will train you now. And when he just kind of looks at her, without even turning, without even doing anything, he just goes, and then just walks off. She's like, that's a Skywalker. Even Rey was like, what the hell just happened? I don't understand this. It doesn't make much sense. And so that was a bold new direction. And the funny thing is that people like Brandon missed it because they're not thinking about why would Luke, this is again the lore reason, why would Luke have any incentive to train Rey? For all he knows, she could turn to the dark side, just like Kylo Ren, and kill him and then go off to the First Order and, be another Darksider like Kylo Ren? How does he know that she's going to be, decent? How does he know that she's going to be a light sider and pay attention to his teachings and what he's going to say? He has no reason to believe a random girl showing up on his doorstep. Even one sent by his sister. Okay? Even though Leia believes in Rey, why would he even do that? Okay? The other thing is that Leia got trained. We saw that training in The Rise of Skywalker, but, it's like, I hear so many people say, oh, Leia was using Force powers flying through space. Oh, it's so stupid. I'm like, is she a fucking daughter of Skywalker or not? Is she? If she's the fucking daughter of Skywalker, then you can bet that the first person that Luke would have trained would have been, I guess, probably his fucking sister. Okay? Because he would have wanted to try out some teaching techniques on someone he knew wasn't going to fall to the dark side that easily. Okay? And it worked. She learned how to become a Jedi, but then she realized that at the end of her Jedi training, she got pregnant, and she realized she had a Force vision that her son was going to be the death of her one day. At the end of her Jedi training, her son was going to be... She saw her death, okay? And so, she hung up her lightsaber. And Luke decided, well, since I successfully trained my sister, maybe I should go out, find some Force-sensitive kids, train them. So he did. He went out, found some Force-sensitive kids, brought them to a planet, started training them, and then Leia shows up and was like, hey, could you train my nephew, or could you train your nephew here, my son? Okay? And he was like, sure. And in that, Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, felt that his mom and dad were foisting him onto his uncle. Instead of Leia using her Jedi training to train her son from like a young age to resist attachment, to not listen to things, to do different things. She didn't do a damn thing to train her own son. She just foisted him onto Luke. And Luke, in his hubris, figured, I'm Luke Skywalker legend. I can just train him. And so he tries to train him. And in doing so, he ends up turning him to the dark side. Through what we've talked about in previous episodes, through the slow reveal that we get, okay? So, to me, it just seems like Brandon has never, ever, ever read a Star Wars novel or actually sat down and watched a Star Wars film. Because his knowledge of lore is about that deep. And it's just, it's the whole argument of, well, it's not what I would have done, so I don't like it. And I don't like that Luke refused to train people. That's not the Luke that we know. That's not the Luke. That's the Luke of the Legends EU canon, but that's not the Luke that we know and love. Okay? So, you don't have a leg to stand on, Brandon.
Giving us something new and different that we've never seen before. It's just giving us an inferior remake, effectively, of stuff we've already seen before. And the sixth and final...
So, before we get on to that, I have heard a lot of people say that about Episode 7, where people sit there and say, oh, it was just an inferior remake of Episode 4. And Episode 6 wasn't. There was a Death Star in Episode 6 that was blown up by Lando. You guys didn't complain then. And if it had been a remake of Episode 4, why wasn't Rey in the cockpit of an X-Wing fighter flying along and destroying it? Why was it Poe, who's not even Force sensitive? I mean, and they didn't even really have a trench run. It was literally they just flew into the trench, and then as they were doing some stuff, Poe says, hey guys, take off, I'll finish this. And he literally just turns sideways, closes his S-foils, flies right in, blows some things up with Rebel Assault style, and then flies right back out the same crack, and then the whole place starts exploding. That's not what we've seen before, folks. At all. I mean, it's not even it's not even what we've seen, remotely what we've seen in Star Wars before. So the mere fact that people are saying, oh, it's just a shoddy remake, means that they don't know what Episode 4's story really was, and that they're looking at things through rose-colored glasses. And now we're on to the sixth fallacy. And in this fallacy, I am absolutely going to destroy this man's credibility. Because this is probably the most hypocritical statement I've heard since my recent video that I just filmed with Creaky Blinder Part 2, okay, where in it he basically is lying about things, and then he claims that other people are lying to get money. And he's lying for money, which to me was hilariously funny, but this is even worse, okay? Because just listen to what he says. This is number 6, keep in mind. And remember what was said in fallacy number 3. Because we're going to come back to that in just about, 30 seconds or so.
The fallacy that I'm hearing from the fans of The Last Jedi is this. That all of the criticisms, or most of the criticisms of The Last Jedi, are nothing more than a bunch of die-hard fanboys who got upset that their fan fiction wasn't made into a movie. And they had all these fan fiction theories in their heads about The Last Jedi and what it should be, and because the writers didn't write their version of The Last Jedi, they're all just upset and they've got a bit butthurt and they're screaming about it and moaning about it. No, that is not the problem here at all. This is about a combination of...
You absolute fucking hypocrite. Oh my fucking God. Are you stupid? You literally sat there. In fallacy number 3, you literally sat there and said, well, this isn't what I would have done. See, I would have done it this way. And my brother took it one step further and he said he would have done it this way. Really? Do I seriously need to do this? Do I seriously need to do this? Okay. Let me do something here really quick. Okay. Let me do something here really quick. Okay. I'm going to write down that I'm at 1752. Okay. Come on. Come on. Alright. And then, what I'm going to do is we are going to pull this back.
Development that happened, or we didn't believe that you should ever change. Like I said, I've got no problem with where they wanted to take him in this film. The problem is, from point A to point B, Return of the Jedi to The Last Jedi, this bit in between is where they failed. And one really classic example of this, it's not the fact that he's a wizened old Jedi and he's upset and angry at the world. It's the fact that they didn't really give a good motivation for what happened between him and Kylo Ren. My younger brother Tim said to me that what they should have done in his version of the movie, this is what they would have done anyway, was they should have had Luke Skywalker realise what was going on with Kylo Ren and then refuse to carry on with the training. And that would have been the trigger for Kylo Ren that got him so angry and upset that he just flipped out and destroyed the Jedi Academy. What I suggested was that they should also add another little plot point in there that perhaps Luke realised that Kylo Ren was getting out of control, and so he thinks, well, if I go and leave my students in the care of the elderly staff, I can go and find Leia, his mother, bring her back, and she can talk to Kylo Ren and convince him perhaps to tone things down a bit, and we can perhaps bring him back from the brink here. And while he's away trying to retrieve Leia, that's when Kylo...
You absolute fucking hypocrite. Again, you fucking hypocrite. Okay? This kind of shit is what pisses me off. Oh, well, see, people just complain that, butthurt fans just never had their fan theories, taken care of and, put on screen. Ha, ha, well, I never said that. Yeah, you did. You literally did, just not 6 minutes before this. Son, I mean, the first time that I ever had someone, okay, basically...
Subjective flaw.
Alright, let me back this up just a tiny bit.
Examples of bad storytelling.
Okay, let me back this up just a tiny bit.
Die-hard fanboys who got upset that their fan fiction wasn't made into a movie. And they had all these fan fiction theories in their heads about The Last Jedi and what it should be. And because the writers didn't write their version of The Last Jedi, they're all just upset and they've got a bit butthurt and they're screaming about it and moaning about it. No, that is not the problem here at all. Yes,
it is. So, I remember... One of the first times that I ever got done watching this movie. Star Wars Episode 1. Okay? It's a great film. Love this film. And in it, there was Jar Jar Binks, there was young Anakin Skywalker. And I remember standing in high school, because this came out in 99, I was a senior in high school at the time. And I kind of sat there and I was like, okay. And I went and saw it and I loved it. And I came in to school the next day. And I was like, and I was talking with a guy and I was like, oh man, did you see Episode 1? He was like, yeah, it was such a bullshit movie. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh, I mean, they did this and they did that. And I'm like, so? And he's like, well, it's not what I would have done. So I asked him 3 questions. 1, are you George Lucas? Well, no. I said, number 2, can you slap a product name on something and it sells because it has a product name on it? No. And the third one was kind of along that same line of, well, I think I asked him if he owned $1 billion company that had a product name. And then the third question was, can you slap that product name on something and it sells because it has that product name? Well, no. Okay then. Shut the fuck up. Because, no offense, you're not George Lucas. You don't control the story. You don't control the universe. They do. Now, let me just say this, okay? I'm a huge fan of Forgotten Realms. I am. I love it. It's a great setting, okay? When Wizards of the Coast, who owns Dungeons & Dragons, they bought it back in 2000, okay? Late 99, early 2000, and they made 3rd edition, then they released the Forgotten Realms campaign guide. They decided to jettison Greyhawk, which had been the default setting for D&D from its inception in 1978 up until like 2005, 2006? No, 2008. All the way through 3.5, okay? Wizards decided that they were going to jettison that, and that they were going to put in a brand new campaign setting as a default campaign setting. And that campaign setting was Forgotten Realms. Then they went and took Forgotten Realms and shunted it 200 years into the future. Not 10 years, 50 years. 200 years into the future. They had Bane kill off Mystra. Somehow Elminster was still alive at that point. Drizzt Do'Urden was still around, and a few of the others, but most of the people that everyone had grown up with during the popularity of Forgotten Realms in the mid, kind of the early to mid 90s, all the way through to the late 2000s, they just decimated that entire campaign setting. Now, then they did that for 4th edition. Plus, they wanted to get rid of, DMs, and they wanted to do all this other garbage. So, I had 2 options at that point. I could either sit there and yell and scream about how bad Wizards is, and how stupid they are for advancing the campaign that much and doing what they did. Or I could just not play 4th edition and say, forget you guys. You guys, you own the campaign setting. You do what you want. I'm going to stay in 3.5. I'm going to play the original Forgotten Realms campaign setting, and fuck your campaign setting. Okay? Because I don't give a shit no more. I really don't. It's not my problem. Okay? Because I don't own the campaign setting. Guess who does? Wizards of the Coast. And it's the same thing with Star Wars. At first it was George Lucas, okay, under Lucasfilm. And now Lucasfilm is owned by Disney because they bought it for $4.02 billion, which George gave $4 billion of it to charity, okay? And they basically said, okay, here's the deal. We're going to create some new Star Wars films, and we're going to take what's been done before in Star Wars, and we're going to remove all of that. We're going to set it over here. It's called the Legends EU timeline. Okay? And we're going to create our own brand new timeline from Episode 6 on. Okay? So, here's what's canon as of right now, and then here's what's going to become canon as we move forward. Perfect. So you have 2 choices. One, you can get pissed off at Disney, okay? Demand they bring back George Lucas, demand they bring back the Legends EU, demand they bring back all this other bullshit, and do what he's doing, okay? Have all your stupid fan theories, have all your stupid fan shit, okay? Or, you can just accept that Disney owns the license, they control the universe, and if you don't like it, go back to the Legends EU and shut the fuck up about it. Because I don't go around complaining about all the Dungeons and Dragons bullshit movies, right? Okay? I've complained a little bit about this movie, but do I sit around and go, wow, they were the dumbest people in the world, how could they let this happen? No. I just said, I don't like it. I own it because I wanted to watch it, but that doesn't mean that I have to like it. Okay? In fact, I would rather watch this movie 1,000 times. Yes, this is the 2000 Dungeons and Dragons movie. It's hilarious. Okay? I love this movie. I would also rather watch this movie, Wrath of the Dragon God, which was the second movie that they made. Okay? Rather than Dragonlance. Okay? Because Dragonlance, in my opinion, is not the Dragonlance movies. It is a kindergartner's project. Okay? Or a person who hasn't quite figured out how in the world they're supposed to marry animation together because they saw one Disney movie and thought, oh, I can do that. Seriously. Okay? It's crap. Now, am I a little angry at some of the decisions Wizards has made? Yes. But I don't sit there and think, this is how they should have done it. I did originally when I flipped through when they came out with the kind of starter materials for 4th edition because they hadn't quite finished all of the books and all the campaign setting and all that stuff yet. I flipped through the little primer for the Forgotten Realms. And I went, what the hell are they doing? Why did they do it this way? Why 200 years? Why this? Why? I had a lot of questions. But you know what? I was never going to get any answers. So you know what I said? Fuck it. That's what I said. Fuck it. And I just never looked back. And now, I've had people ask me, what do you think about, because they know that I play 3.5 D&D. And they ask me, oh, what did you think of 4th edition? And I'll tell them, I thought it was crap. I thought the whole edition sucked. I thought that what the decisions that Wizard made were stupid. Now, if someone wants to sit down and have a discussion with me, I'll be willing to sit down and tell them my reasons. Okay? And they're free to disagree. And at the end of the day, I'm probably going to say, that's good. I'm glad you like that edition. It's not for me. That's called agreeing to disagree. This is tyranny. This is tyrannical thinking. It is, we don't like it because it's not what we would have done. And he literally sat there 16 minutes, or not 16, 6 minutes before this, about. Maybe 8 minutes before this, but it was about 9 minutes, so it's about 9 minutes before this, okay? He literally sat there 8 to 9 minutes ago, in this very video, saying, well, my brother said that he would have had, he would have had Luke refuse to train Kylo Ren, and then I would have taken it one step further. I would have had Luke run off to go get Leia, and then while he was gone, that's when Kylo Ren went and did all this stuff. And then he has the balls, the absolute balls, to be the hypocrite that he is, and sit right there and go, well, another fallacy is, well, they just say that they're butthurt fans that they never got their fan theories done, and you know what? Oh, that's just not true. Yeah, it is. Because you literally said it, son. That's not a lore reason for hating the films. That is a personal reason for hating the films. Your fan theory, like I said, movie delivered, okay? But your expectations were up here, and the movie delivered, but it wasn't what you would have done. You literally said that 9 minutes ago in this very video. So don't sit there and tell me that when I say that it's butthurt, toxic fans out there saying this shit, don't you dare fucking tell me. Don't you dare fucking tell me that I'm wrong. Because this bastard is one of them. And I have heard a lot of people say the same thing about the prequels and about the sequels. Okay? I have been in this fight for over 20 years. Starting in 1999 with this fucking movie. Episode 1. Okay? I have been in this fight for over 20 years because this is a series that I personally came to love in the 1990s. And when I heard that they were making new films, I was excited. And then all I heard for 20 fucking years, was people going, they're so bad. The prequels suck. Oh, the prequels are this. Oh, the prequels are that. Do you have any lore-related reasons as to why the prequels suck? Or is it just your opinion that the prequels suck? And 90% of the time it was the prequels sucked. And then right after episode 7 came out, all of a sudden it's, oh, these movies aren't so bad, you fucking hypocrites. I'm pissed. I am pissed at so-called fans like this. And I use the term loosely with quotation marks because they're not actual fans. They're just butthurt, toxic asshats that don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Because they don't know what Star Wars is from a hole in the wall. Because people like me that truly love the property and have been studying the lore for years, yes, there's things about the Legends EU that I can't stand. But I don't sit there and go, why the hell did they do that? Like, Vector Prime. Like, they killed off Chewbacca. And then basically, like, after they killed off Chewbacca, instead of the right thing, okay, which is Han basically, like, going into a berserker rage because his best friend just died, okay, which is what we know Han would do, okay, because we saw it with Chewbacca, which is exactly one of the reasons why I loved the Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, is because Chewbacca, when Kylo kills Han, what's the first thing Chewbacca does? Now, remember, what did Chewie owe Han? A life debt. What did that life debt include? Leia, Luke, by extension, Ben, C-3PO, R2-D2, Lando, right? All of Han's closest friends and allies, right? Who the fuck did he shoot? What was the first thing he did right after Han was shot? Or right after Han was stabbed with the lightsaber? Didn't he shoot a person that he was sworn to protect? But that's because he violated the life debt by killing Han. And instead, they had Han Solo flying around the galaxy in the Millennium Falcon, doing absolutely fucking nothing for books on end. And it wasn't until, like, I think it was like Luke and Leia finally tracked him down and were like, Han, wake up. Psh, do you want to avenge Chewie or not? And then he finally went into his berserker rage and started killing Yuuzhan Vong. But it wasn't until his... Like, if I was writing the character, as soon as Chewie died, I would have had Han, like, basically storming into the New Republic saying, when are we going to take the fight to these bastards? Do I have to do this by myself? My best friend, who owed me a life debt, just died to save a whole bunch of people, and you fuckers are sitting around doing absolutely nothing? Hell no, we're out. I'm going to go take the fight to them. See ya. And then he builds his own little squad, and they go out there and they start taking the fight, guerrilla style, to the Yuuzhan Vong. That's what should have happened. Now, did that happen? No. Can I change that? No. Unless I want to write a fanfic about it. But I'm not going to do that. Which is why, in Fallacy 3, back like 2 or 3 videos ago, I basically told this fucker, if you're going to sit there and you're going to tell us your fan fiction theory, again, you have 2 choices. Either A, accept what they wrote on the screen, watch the damn film, understand the damn story, or B, shut your fucking cake hole and write a goddamn fanfic about it. Because I am sick and tired of people like this and their stupid-ass hypocrisy.
Is about a combination of factors and flaws, effectively, in The Last Jedi that are all, if you look at them objectively, they are classic examples of bad storytelling.
You've said bad storytelling now for 18 fucking minutes, okay? You've been saying, oh, it's bad storytelling, it's bad storytelling. You haven't given me one reason that I haven't destroyed as to why this is a bad story or bad storytelling, okay? Because I explained the whole story to you that is plain to see in this fucking movie, and in Episode 7, and in Episode 9, if you'd bother to actually watch it. See, the problem is that you have in your head your preconceived notion of what should be happening, and because it wasn't your preconceived notion, you decided that it was bad storytelling. Do you want to know an example of bad storytelling? Because I can give you an example of bad storytelling. Bad storytelling. Yes, I said it. Final Fantasy The Spirits Within is some of the worst storytelling I have ever heard in my life. Oh, you want another one? Okay, well, let's grab bad storytelling. In the Name of the King, a Dungeon Siege tale. It's basically a Lord of the Rings fan fiction that somebody decided needed the Dungeon Siege name on it and thrown into a thing. And you'll notice both of them are video game movies. Now, how is it that the best-selling RPG franchise and one of the best Western-selling RPG franchises in history have 2 of the worst movie adaptations in history when right next to Final Fantasy The Spirits Within is the best movie adaptation? Yes, I said it. The original Mortal Kombat is some of the best movie to video game adaptations ever Is it Enter the Dragon? Yes. But it is done in such a way that it actually makes fucking sense. Okay? Hell, I would rather watch this movie, Advent Children. Yeah. You know why? Because it actually does make sense. Okay? So unless you're going to present some kind of bad storytelling example that I can't dispute, I'm sorry, son. Your argument doesn't hold water.
They are failures in the telling of the story. That's where the problem lies. I had absolutely no fan theories about what I want.
No fan theories, huh? Oh, you hypocrite. Oh, you are such the hypocrite, Brendan. Oh, my God. Oh. Son, you absolutely had fan theories. If you walked out of this movie, okay, thinking, well, shit. Wow. I didn't like how they handled the story with Luke and Kylo. You know, I would have done it this way. And your brother's going, yeah, you know, I would have done it this way. You absolutely had fan theories. Again, you had expectations. The movie delivered, but it wasn't here where your expectations were. Okay? And that's the problem, son. You absolutely had your own fan theories and expectations. So to sit there and try to say that is just hypocritical bullshit. Fuck me.
Wanted to see out of this film at all. I went in as a blank slate.
No, you didn't.
And what I saw was a film with some objective flaws in it.
No, you fucking didn't. No, you fucking didn't, son. No, you fucking didn't. Because that's the problem. You wouldn't have had... If it was just objective story problems, then you would have said things that I wouldn't have had answers to. You would have said, you know, why is it that, you know, Luke Skywalker did this? Why is it that Luke Skywalker did that? Why was it that he had this? Why was it that he had that? Blah, blah, blah. And I would have been like, yeah, those are pretty good points. I couldn't answer those. But the sheer fact that I could sit there and say, we know the story because the story was revealed. We know the story because we heard the story told. I read the story in the fucking novel. In the fucking novelization, son. I absolutely read the fucking novel where I was like, you know, here's what they said, blah, blah, blah. Okay? And like, you decided to sit there and say, oh, well, you know, I probably would have done this, or... It's pathetic to think that you would even know anything about any of the stories that are in Star Wars at all with that level of ignorance, okay? And that level of hypocrisy. Because you sat there and said, oh, here's Luke Skywalker, one of the most established characters in the Star Wars universe. And I said, how? Are you judging by the Legends EU standard, or are you judging by the Disney standard? Because if you're judging by the Disney standard, when they made Episode 7, they were starting over. All they had at that point was, and again, I've said this a number of times before, okay? All they had was Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, the Clone Wars TV series, which includes, by extension, the 2008 movie, because that's basically the pilot. They had Revenge of the Sith. They had A New Hope. They had Empire Strikes Back, and they had Return of the Jedi. And that was it. Now, by extension, they've gotten into the Aftermath series. They did the Phasma book. They did all the different comics. They did all the different things. Rogue One and Solo have come along now. They have a bunch of other, they got the Mandalorian, they have the Resistance TV show, they have, they finished up Rebels and they've got Ahsoka Tano, they got the Ahsoka show now, and they have Kenobi, they have a whole bunch of different TV shows on Disney Plus. So now they have a huge universe of stories to draw from. But before, what did they have? 6 films and 2 TV shows. That's it. Now, they used some of the Legends EU timeline. Granted, they used, like I said, they used Dark Empire for the resurrection of Palpatine. They used the Jedi Academy trilogy in that, Luke was training a young group of Jedi, and one of his students turns against him and, kills his students or runs off and joins the dark side. We have, they used a bunch of those stories. They used bits and pieces of it, okay? And like I said, when they went to put Thrawn in Rebels, okay, they hired Timothy Zahn, okay, the guy that literally created Thrawn, to come back and write a novel called Thrawn that was going to establish him in the Star Wars universe so that when they put him into Rebels, people had a book to read and people had the character in the show. And they could go, oh, wow, cool, haha. And that's all they did. But son, at the time that they sat down to write Episode 7, Episode 8, and Episode 9, all they had was 6 films and 2 TV shows. That's it. He wasn't the most established character in the Star Wars universe. And if you walked in to the movie thinking in your mind, here's the Luke Skywalker that I know from the Legends EU timeline, you were going to be sorely disappointed by his portrayal in this film. And I can guarantee you, you didn't walk in there with a blank slate. You walked in there with your conception, just by your own words, by his own words, okay? And you can go back and watch this video, okay? And listen to what he says, and I think it was in Fallacy number 1, okay? Listen to what he says about Luke Skywalker. Oh, he's the most established character. No, he's not. No, he isn't. And I can guarantee you, if he walked in there thinking that, that's why his expectation was up here. The movie delivers, but it wasn't what he wanted. And that's why he's like, oh, I would have done this, and I would have done that, and my brother would have done this, and he would have done that. Because you absolutely had your own expectations. And that's why I'm making this video. Is because when I watched this video originally, and I listened through his first 5 fallacies, and then I got the fallacy number 6, I was like, oh my God, you absolute fucking hypocrite. Because I walked into episode 7 knowing full well that everything that had come before was gone. So these were all new characterizations. All I was thinking was, did they keep the same characters consistent? Is Leia still Leia? Is Han still Han? Is Luke still Luke? Is Chewie still Chewie? Is C-3PO still C-3PO? Is R2-D2 still R2-D2? Is Lando still Lando? All of these different characters that we knew, are they still those characters? Okay? And literally the only thing that they showed us is they showed us a preview of Rey on her little thing, BB-8 rolling along, Finn getting up after he wakes up on Jakku in his stormtrooper armor, and Kylo Ren igniting his lightsaber. And that was all we saw. In the original preview for Episode 7, we didn't know where was Han, where was Leia, where was Luke, where was Chewie, where was R2, where was C-3PO, where was Lando, where was everybody. But they were trying to introduce us to new characters, okay? And so when I went into that movie knowing full well, and the first preview was perfect because it just showed the new characters going along, and then right at the very end, it shows the Millennium Falcon taking off from Jakku, and then it shows Han and Chewie coming up onto the thing. Han's got his old DL-44 blaster, and Chewie's got his bowcaster, and he goes, "Chewie, we're home." And you're like, yes! I can't wait to see this. Because he's Han Solo, and he's going, "We're back on the Millennium Falcon." You're like, yes! Okay? And so, I went into the movie knowing full well that the characters that I was going to see were not the same characters that were in the original Legends EU. Okay? And so my expectations were, these are not the same characters. And I can guarantee you that that's not what he did. This man is lying to you when he says, "Oh no, I walked into this movie with a blank slate." No, you didn't. No, you fucking didn't. Okay? Alright. We're going to listen to a little bit more, and then we'll call it an episode.
And I had a bad experience, and I walked away pretty ho-hum, and over the next couple of days I realised after watching the film that the reason I was so ho-hum was because the storytelling in this movie is not particularly good. Now, we are still in the honeymoon phase of this new movie, and what happens in the honeymoon phase is everyone just goes gaga over the film, particularly if it's a big franchise. We're talking about Star Wars here. Everyone just, "Wow, this is amazing, it's so amazing, best movie ever, it's even better than Empire Strikes Back," which is one of the most absurd claims I've heard about this film, by the way, but it's the most amazing thing ever. And then what happens is, about 6 months to a year later, people who were still in that honeymoon phase, like a lot of people are right now, they start to realise on subsequent viewings of the film that in actual fact, once that sort of mania has died down, this ain't such a good film after all, and more people start coming to their senses. And I think
actually what I can say is no, because I viewed this film a lot, and I've watched from Episode 1 all the way through Solo, through Rogue One, through 4, 5, and 6, down through 7, 8, and 9. And I can say without a doubt that my 3 favorite films in the entire thing are Episode 3, Episode 5, and Episode 8. Okay? Because Episode 3 was awesome for a number of reasons. Okay, it was the perfect bridge between the original trilogy and the new and the prequels, Episode 1 and 2, because it kind of brought in some stuff from the places. It brought in some stuff from the 1 and 2, but it also brought in some of the elements from 4, 5, and 6 to kind of marry it together so that you understood that events were in motion that were now coming to a head in the original trilogy. Okay, Episode 5 is pretty obvious. I remember the first few times that I heard, "No, I am your father," and it was kind of life-changing. It's still a pretty good movie today. It still holds up pretty well. And I go back and forth. Sometimes I like Return of the Jedi better. Sometimes I like Empire Strikes Back better. But this movie is structurally absolutely better than Episode 5. Okay? Only because it shows us the same Luke Skywalker as Empire Strikes Back. That jaded, I don't give a fuck about anything kind of character. Okay? Who takes off on the slightest whim because he doesn't care. And Yoda has to show up and smack him in the face with his gimmer stick and what are you doing, you dumbass? I failed to take down the Emperor, but I still trained you, didn't I? Huh? Wake up, Luke! And Luke realizes he made a mistake. And in Episode 9, he tries to correct that mistake by telling Rey, "I was wrong. I screwed up." I should have trained you. I should have done it right, and I didn't, and I'm sorry. And now, you need to go and do what I couldn't. which is end the Emperor. And she does. So, Brandon, you have no clue what you're talking about, son. There are no structural story problems wrong with this movie, because I have taken down every single one. And we have 9 minutes and 22 seconds left of this, so it's probably going to be another 2, maybe 3 videos. I'm not going to be spending as long talking on the next few because I think most of his points are done. Because he's already done with his 6 fallacies. So we're going to continue on, and I'm going to finish this series. And I think probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to look at some of his other videos, and I'm going to download them, and I'm going to see about doing them, about taking them down, because he's got some, like, is Luke, is the character of Luke, good or whatever, and just all this other garbage, and I'm going to take him down. I'm going to do it because it needs to happen. Because the fans of Star Wars need to know that people like this don't know what they're talking about. Okay? And they're hypocritical assholes that don't know what they're talking about. And the reason why I wanted to take down some of his arguments is I wanted to make sure that if he's trying to use the argument of, well, see, in this book series over here, this author portrayed Luke like this. In this video game over here, they portrayed Luke like this. And over here in The Last Jedi, oh, well, they portrayed Luke like this, and that's not Luke at all. If that's what he's doing, oh man, I'm going to destroy him. Just like I'm doing here. Okay? Smash that like button, hit subscribe, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think of the series so far. Let me know if you think I'm off base. Leave your lore-related comments down below in the comment section. And we will see you down there. And we will see you on the next one.